storyline, or certainly among them over the next week or so.
Yep.
A.J. Brown. You and Peter and everyone keep telling me, Graziano was reporting it over the weekend, that the Eagles are giving everyone every possible indication that their intention is to keep him. Should I be expecting that when we get to the end of next week, A.J. Brown is still a Philadelphia Eagle?
I think that's the sense right now. Look, they have talked to teams. Teams have approached them. They're not looking to deal A.J. Brown. But if a team steps up and gives them the right price, they could be enticed into trading A.J. Brown. It just hasn't happened yet, and there's no sign yet that it will. Now, look, in the next week, could Howie Roseman come off the very high asking price that he's been asking of teams, and could he lower it? And could this be a strategy? And he knows this, and when it gets to the start of the new league year, he's going to lower it by a little bit and that's certainly within the realm of options. But it doesn't sound like they're actively looking to trade him. Could it happen? Yes. But it doesn't sound like it's a high probability right now.
Break the fourth wall. If you want to go on Twitter and say, A.J. Brown could be had in a trade, that is a different story. But what Adam's saying is accurate, and it's what we've been reporting here on the show last couple weeks. Yes, Howie Roseman is always going to be listening. He is the most aggressive general manager in all of sports. When I tell you, he's always calling other GMs, and in this case, he's not dangling A.J. Brown at all. He is wide open. You can call him. You can make it. Both things can be true. I would also add this, and I said it last week on this show to you, Greeny. They interviewed 17 different offensive coordinator candidates. They hired a 32-year-old who never called a play because he came in and blew them away. And Sean Mannion, part of what he presented in the cut-ups was how he would utilize A.J. Brown as a key part of the offense.
There was a team that called him over the weekend. Hey, what would it take to get A.J. Brown? They heard the price. They said, thank you very much. Good luck. That was it.
So
that was
that's fair. So that's one side of it. And I will say, as you said, and I understand this is all the cost of doing business, that if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm not advertising to the world that I'm looking to trade him. I have the price up very high. And then to your point, at the last minute, if I want to move him, I come down. But there's another side of this, right? That it takes two to tango. A.J. Brown, again, this is very dangerous for me to I don't know A.J. Brown. I never met A.J. Brown. I don't want to misrepresent this. It's not like he and I are having conversations about this. But I'm just reading the tea leaves. He doesn't look like a person to me who is happy. He doesn't look like a person to me who is feeling like his talents are best being utilized, that he's got the best chance to maximize his career. He's got a few years left in his prime. Like there's his side of this as well. And I have to believe if I'm A.J. Brown, he's winking at Patriots on podcasts.
That's his favorite team.
I'm just saying, there's his side of this as well.
Absolutely. And I think his side of it also represents the relationship with the quarterback. I think we all no one is inside that locker room that's on TV to talk about the relationship with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. But I think that's a big part of this because when you have a star receiver that is A.J. Brown's caliber, you go back to the Buffalo Bills. You think about when they got rid of Stephon Diggs. You got to believe that Josh Allen was aware of the moves that they were going to make for him to walk out of the building. How does Jalen Hurts feel about A.J. Brown? Does he still feel like that's a guy that we can build that connection back up? Because since A.J. Brown's been there, they've been a top 5 duo quarterback wide receiver in the NFL other than this past season. So if Jalen Hurts still feels like there's so much room to grow with A.J. Brown, then you're not even entertaining this. But if Jalen Hurts is like, Howie, you know what? I can understand why that trade it helps our team and puts us in a better position. Then that, to me, is something that should be talked about.
The other wrinkle to this is that there's always a draft around the corner, and this wide receiver class is incredibly deep. And I was told there could be up to 20 different wide receivers taken in the first 3 rounds. That would be an all-time record. You start looking at the cost of it all, and you say, all right, this is what the Minnesota Vikings did with Stephon Diggs. They said, we're not going to want Diggs around. We're going to move on from him, and then we're going to draft one. They were fortunate enough that Howie Roseman took Jalen Reagor first, and Justin Jefferson was sitting there, and they upgraded. In this case, is Philadelphia going to be bold enough to say, we can trade A.J. Brown and hit that draft pick? They might think that, but I would also think they want to keep A.J. Brown as long as they can.
They traded for him on draft night. I mean, I remember, right? That was the night that trade
Burks
was actually made with Tennessee. The other piece of that is who's the other side of it. And you just mentioned Buffalo and Josh Allen. That's the place that immediately jumps to mind. Everyone, including their owner, has pointed out that they have a need for a number 1 wide receiver. That one jumps to mind. New England jumps to mind. I've had people talk about the Chargers having a lot of space here, and they're a team no one ever thinks about and talks about, but maybe get a weapon for Justin Herbert. You seem less impressed with that one. I'm just reading.
I like Buffalo, New England.
Okay, let's keep
I like those 2 options at a conference. Both have a need. both trying to make a splash. Mike Vrabel knows those make sense. But here's the deal. They know what the price is.
Right.
And we haven't heard of any movement yet on a deal. So it doesn't seem like the Eagles are aggressively trying to make it happen. There's a difference between listening and acting.
Yeah.
And right now they may be listening, but right now they're not acting.
Okay, so there's one superstar that I'm trying to get Shefty to trade. Here's the other one.
We got
I'm gonna
another
try
one.
and get you to trade. You ready?
Yeah.
Come up, step up to the plate, Max Crosby. So here's the thing that with the Raiders. The Raiders were the worst team in the National Football League last year. That's not an opinion. It's a statement of fact. They had the worst record. They have the first pick in the draft. I was one of many who said they shouldn't take a quarterback #1 overall. They should trade that. They're not ready to develop a quarterback. They should use that to jumpstart their rebuild. That seems not to be the direction they're going. I get it. If you believe Fernando Mendoza is going to be your quarterback for a decade, you take him. But you need to jumpstart your rebuild somewhere. To me, the Raiders should trade Max Crosby, even though they seem to be posturing as though they will not.
I think this is very similar to the A.J. Brown situation. They are listening. They are not looking to deal him. The difference is, I think we got two disgruntled players, two players that I think would welcome a trade, Max Crosby, A.J. Brown, and two teams that are listening but not overly enthused about dealing them. It sounds like if the Raiders could get a Micah Parsons-like package, because we've seen the precedent already, that they would absolutely consider it. So far, that hasn't happened. And again, I'll say it with the Raiders, as I said it with Howie Roseman and the Eagles, and it applies to the Raiders general manager, John Spytek, in Las Vegas. Do they come off that price next week? Does the price suddenly drop? Or you could ask in early March for 5 ones. You could ask for whatever you want, knowing that at the start of the league year, when the trade can only be executed on Wednesday, March 11th, 1 week from tomorrow, then I'm going to go from 2 1s to a 1 and a 3. Or I'm going to go from 2 1s to a 1 and a, or whatever it may be in your own mind. They don't have to ask for that today. You could ask for the moon today. It's like any negotiation. You start high, and then you come back down a little lower.
Now, Jason, you did a bunch of Raiders games this year as well. I did a Monday Night Football game and had an opportunity to speak with the Raiders brass early in the season. And the story that you get on Max Crosby, and I know this is cliche for a lot of you at home, we're talking 4 a.m., first car in the parking lot, last guy to leave, constantly working, the vibes guy, lifts everyone up. That's why I don't trade Max Crosby. That is a cornerstone piece. You have one of the best defensive players in football on your roster. I know we can get a bunch of assets for him. That's no question. But are you ever going to find a Max Crosby at 29 years old who can do that? I would be curious to see if this thing progresses, because I think Max Crosby is an irreplaceable player.
That's the part, to me, just to follow what Shrek just said, that's so intriguing, because everything of what you said of why he should remain with the Raiders is why, if I'm one of these other teams, the Cowboys, who are trying to upstart and really build their defense, you give up a ton for a Max Crosby because of what you just said. You can bring him in your locker room. And if I'm Christian Parker, the new defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, on day one, I'd tell Max Crosby to stand up. And this is just an example of the Cowboys. And I would tell everybody in the defensive room, you see that guy? Follow him. Whatever he does, just do what he does. If he gets in the cold tub, you get your butt in the cold tub. If he's going into treatment early, you go into treatment early. He's that type of player.
Let me say this, that the Raiders have a new head coach. They've got the #1 overall pick where they're expected to take Fernando Mendoza. They have Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. They can try to sell Max Crosby on this idea. I think he's had 6 head coaches in 7 years.
And 5 GMs.
And 5 GMs. So he's tired. He's never won at any level, including in college or high school. He wants to go to a winner. By the way, there's been no conversations with the Dallas Cowboys to date. We'll see what happens here in the coming days. It always could happen, but nothing to date so far. Here's what I would say. I think Max Crosby would like out. But at this time last year, nobody sounded like they wanted out more than Myles Garrett wanted out of Cleveland.
Right.
And he wound up staying.
And that was a mistake on both sides. The Browns should have traded him. He broke the sack record, and they still finished last in their division. And the Raiders, for all the 4 a.m. and all that kind of stuff,
terrible.
They won 3 games.
I know.
So at some point, you have to try, and this is There's two different things. I sit here and I talk
But
about
what if
the
they're
culture.
the Patriots? They turn it around. They want him to be a part of that.
I understand that. I mean, if you think that you're that level of close to turning it around, then that's fine. But I think the Raiders feel awfully far away from that. Now, if you think you can, look, they probably don't feel that way. I would understand the logic behind it. But it seems to me that a lot of NFL teams, a lot of great NFL teams have been built with a bunch of really good draft picks. You have one or two really good draft classes that turn everything around. Watch the Browns be good 2 or 3 years from now if they finally get the quarterback thing right. The Giants had a good draft. We'll see if they wind up turning things around. The Raiders, it would make sense to me. But that's the argument on the other side. If you think you can be the Patriots and turn the thing around. But Crosby, to finish it up, he's the guy who would make a major difference if he went somewhere.
Major difference. You're looking at teams, the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, teams that feel like they're a player away, and you're building and you have quarterbacks on those rookie deals that you can pay a guy like Max Crosby to come in and set the tone for the entire team. That is such a difference maker. Yes, we're talking about him on the Raiders and their lack of success, but that wasn't because of Crosby. This guy was single-handedly wrecking games, leading the league in tackles for losses. So he is a guy that is a huge impact player. And for teams that want something like that, he's a guy that can change it.
I would just add that, whereas Micah Parsons is this unbelievable player, Crosby is the leader of the entire franchise, which is a little bit different. Not that Micah's not a good teammate and all that stuff. Dak was the face of that franchise. Max Crosby is the face of the Raiders right now. If you're going to trade the face of the Raiders, and I know they've been a moribund team and a team you wouldn't watch, if you were put on your television right now. That said, the guys all believe in him. They follow him. So if you're trading him off for assets, what's the message to everybody else?
And if you're thinking about the Micah thing, Micah will be 27 this offseason. Crosby will be 29 this offseason. So there's a 2-year difference in age. So those are a couple of superstars. And then there are the quarterbacks.